So imagine this, you're flying at high altitude, closing in on a formation of enemy bombers, and your weapon? An unguided rocket with a nuclear warhead. No guidance system, no second chances, just point, fire, and hope you timed it right. Yeah, welcome to the McDonnell F-101 Voodoo. Most stories have another side, this one's just a little stranger. I'm Bill, and this is Buffalo Air Park. Let's dive in. I actually just stood next to one of these, out at the Maps Air Museum in Ohio, sitting outside, looking a little weathered, but still huge. And that's the first thing that hits you. The Voodoo is big. Not fighter jet big. More like, this shouldn't be big and still be called a fighter big. The fuselage is longer than a DC-3. You stand there looking at it, and you start to realize, this thing wasn't designed to be elegant. It was designed to solve a problem, and then immediately got caught in a different one. Because the Voodoo started life all the way back in 1946 as a long-range bomber escort, the idea was simple. Fly with the bombers, protect them deep in enemy territory, bring them home. Except, by the time it was ready, the bombers were faster than the escort. So just like that, the mission disappeared. And, instead of scrapping the idea entirely, the Air Force basically said, alright, make it bigger, faster, and give it something interesting to carry. And this is where things start to get a little unhinged, because instead of following the normal prototype process, they use something called the Cook-Craigie policy, which is a polite way of saying, we'll figure it out while we're building it. They skipped the traditional prototype phase and started producing aircraft while still working out the problems. And there were a lot of problems. Over 2,300 design changes in about a year, which tells you everything you need to know about how rushed this thing was. And yet, despite all that, it was fast. Really fast. When the first production F-101A took off in 1954, it went supersonic on its very first flight. That's not supposed to happen. Even Neil Armstrong flew the Voodoo during his time at NACA. So yeah, this wasn't just another Cold War jet. This was a serious machine. And the Air Force knew it. So, in 1957, they decided to show it off. Operation Sun Run. Coast-to-coast flights across the United States, mid-air refueling at 35,000 feet, cruising just under Mach 1. Los Angeles to New York in just over 3 hours. Then they pushed it even further. Operation Firewall. Over 1,200 miles per hour. For a brief moment, the Voodoo was the fastest jet in the world. And then, it reminded everyone why pilots had another nickname for it, the 45,000-pound rock. Because the Voodoo had a problem, a really bad one, something called pitch up. And this is where the airplane goes from impressive to slightly terrifying. Because of the swept wings and that high T-tail, if you pulled back too hard on the stick, the airflow over the tail would just disappear. And when that happens, the nose doesn't gently rise, it snaps up, violently. And the airplane can flip itself into a flat spin that's nearly impossible to recover from. So, what did they do to fix it? Did they redesign the tail? No. They installed something called the stick knocker. And it does exactly what it sounds like. If you get too close to that danger zone, the airplane hits your hand, physically forces the nose back down. Think about that for a second. You're flying at high speed, and the airplane decides, you're not doing this right, let me take over. One pilot, Jim Brickell, described flying it as, like 1,000 pieces of metal grating against one another. He called it, flying in a barrel. And honestly, that might be the most accurate description of the Voodoo I've heard. But, if the flying qualities were a little aggressive, the weapons were something else entirely. The interceptor version, the F-101B, carried the Air 2 Genie. And this is where Cold War logic really kicks in, because the Genie was a nuclear rocket. And it was completely unguided. So the strategy was, fly towards a formation of incoming bombers, fire a nuclear weapon into the middle of them, and rely on the blast radius to do the rest. No guidance, no fine targeting, just area problem solved. And believe it or not, this caused a massive political crisis in Canada, because Canada bought the Voodoo, but hesitated on accepting the nuclear warheads. That debate got so intense, it actually helped bring down the government in 1963. Eventually, they accepted them, under a dual-key system with the United States, which meant both sides had to agree before anything could happen. Still, that's a lot of trust for a weapon like that. And then you get into the stories, because the Voodoo is full of them. Like Robin Olds, before Vietnam, before the mustache. He's commanding a Voodoo wing in England, and he's bored. The Air Force is focused on nuclear delivery, but Olds wants a dogfight. So he creates an unauthorized demo team, gets told to stop, and then, during an air show, with leadership watching, he leads his formation into a low pass and rolls the entire group into a formation barrel roll. His boss was furious, pulled his promotion, took him off the path to becoming a general, which was exactly what Olds wanted, because it meant he could stay in the fight. Then there's the Voodoo's quieter side. Out of Area 51, they used them as chase planes for the A-12 Oxcart, trying to keep up with something that would eventually become the SR-71. There was the electric Voodoo in Canada, painted black, loaded with jammers, basically blinding other fighters during training. And then maybe the strangest one of all, a retired Voodoo flown straight into thunderstorms for research, because apparently someone looked at this airplane and thought, yeah, that's the one we want in a supercell. And then you come back to the one sitting at maps, because the one I saw is actually an F-101F, but it's painted to represent a completely different aircraft, an F-101B. So, even sitting still, it's still playing both roles, and honestly, that might be the most fitting thing about it, because the F-101 Voodoo never really had just one identity. It was a bomber escort that never escorted bombers, a fighter that didn't dogfight, an interceptor that carried nuclear weapons, and a machine that demanded respect every second you were in it. It was fast, it was complicated, it was unforgiving, but for the people who flew it and survived it, it was something special. And that wraps up another tale from aviation's stranger side. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies.